afternoon, Questers. Today is Saturday and we're at the boat once again. And today we are screwing down the subfloor in the main salon and in the passageway that leads back to the aft cabin. Oops, sorry. A little wiggly here, sorry about that. What say you, Gene?
We're making progress.
Yeah, it's slow, but we're making progress. It's nice to see the new flooring going in and getting screwed down. What Jean's doing is she's marking all the stringers on the upper side of the subfloor so that I can put some
screws.
Yeah, so I know where to put the screws, so we get it all screwed down. And then once we are finished with that, we'll move into the aft cabin. We still have to cut that piece of board. Kind of a complicated cut, so it's got a radius in it that we have to map out on the wood. So we did a template. Hopefully we'll be able to cut that with a jigsaw and it'll fit. We'll see. And then once we're done with that, then we're pretty much done with all the subfloor. And then we're going to take a break from the floor for a while. We're not going to put the finished floor in for a while because we don't want to damage it while we're doing other things. And so I think the next thing we're going to move to once we get the subfloor finished is, well, we have to measure for the hatches and cut out the hatches, the subfloor portion for the hatches. And then after that, we're going to move to, I think, the hull liner, yes? Is that right?
Hull liner, clean the water tank.
Oh, yeah.
Because we'd like to get the water started.
Yeah, but that won't take a whole day. We're just going to put some clean, we've got to order some tank cleaner.
Well, we do need sinks and fixtures.
If we were going to, yeah, if we were going to buy, the tank cleaner at the old Separate You From Your Money Marine store that will go unnamed here, it would be almost $40 for a gallon of this stuff. I think I could probably find it online for cheaper or an alternative. I mean, it's not like I have to scrub the inside of the tank. I just need to disinfect it and make sure it's clean and then run it through all the piping. So what we'll have to do is we'll have to get into the tank and then we'll have to put all the fixtures back on in the heads, the shower and the sinks, so that we can run the water through there.
We can have drinking water.
And then once that's done, then we'll have a clean tank, and we'll be able to have clean water, and we won't have to worry about any kind of bacteria or anything that might have grown in the tank since we've emptied it. It's a 180-gallon water tank, so it's a big one, and it's only one tank, and it only has one small access in the right here in the middle of the salon, which is what, maybe about the size of a saucer.
Small saucer.
Yeah, so what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to stick a boat hook or something down in there with a moppy type thing on the end, and just go around and around until we swish it so that it moves the water around in the tank, and then we'll run a whole tank through with the cleaner in it, all through all the faucets and everything, and clean all those, all the water lines, and then we'll empty it again, and then we'll refill it with fresh water, and we should be good to go. Yeah, for the water system. We have replaced the water pump, so it's a brand new freshwater pump, pressure pump. So we know that that's good, and all the faucets and everything work. We took all the old ones out so that we could replace them in the heads and in
They look a little corroded.
Oh, they were terrible.
Probably one of them didn't something snap off or something.
I don't remember.
It was about to.
The shower was a real problem getting it out because of the space I had to work with to get the retaining ring out to take the shower section off. That was a real pain. Should go on a lot easier because I can just reach back there and screw it on with my hand. It doesn't really have to be all that tight. Hand tight will probably be good enough for that. But anyway. Yeah, we have to get the sinks back in. We'll have to get the faucets back in before we can run the water, obviously. Otherwise, we'll have water all over the floor. That won't be good. Anyway, and then I guess then, well, I don't know, hon. Do you want to do the I kind of want to wait on the sink faucets and the sinks and all that until a little bit later because I don't want put a brand new and get them dusty, dirty, and dinged.
I think we should do the hull liner, maybe even work on the port lights, and you still have to make a cabinet over there by the chart table where the air conditioning ducting is.
That's right.
And the nav station work. So that's gonna, if something's gonna make a lot of
dust,
sawdust and stuff, we should probably.
I'm going to probably hire that cabinet out because it's going to require some finish carpentry, and I'm no carpenter. So I'm going to look at it and see what I think I can do. Maybe I can do it, but I'm thinking, just for the sake of the boat, the way it's going to look in here. I mean, obviously we're doing a lot to make the boat look nice, and I don't want some, jury rigged thing for the nav station. So we'll see how that goes. But yes, so I'm thinking maybe the easiest next step is the hull liner. What do you think?
I think so.
Yeah.
It'll make it look nice.
It'll certainly help with the insulation in here a little bit too. We also found this spray-on. It's like it's a spray paint type material, but it's very thick and it's kind of rubbery, and it's good for coating metals and things like that to protect them. And we use it at work to protect the bottom of light poles and fence poles and things like that from the weed whackers, yeah. And it seems to hold up really well. So we're thinking about getting a white color, or a light color if you can't find white, maybe a light gray or something, and spray the hull on the inside of the cabinets where we have actual doors on the cabinets. And rather than trying to put a hull liner in there, since there is a door on the cabinet, it won't be seen, and then once it's full of stuff, it won't be seen anyway because the door will be closed, and that would be a good thing to put on there. It's kind of like bilge coat, except I think it's a little more flexible, and so they sell it at Lowe's. I think we're going to swing by there today and get a couple of cans of that and test it and see how that goes. So the hull liner, the decision that we have to make for the hull liner is we got to figure out whether we want to buy the hull liner material that is sold as hull liner by Sailrite, which we got a couple of samples, and it's kind of flimsy, isn't it? It's kind of thin, it's kind of flimsy.
You found something at Costco, actually. It was like an outdoor carpet.
It was actually at Home Depot.
Oh.
And it's like it's an indoor-outdoor type carpet. So it's a little thicker, but it's still made out of nylon, like a polypropylene material, so it won't absorb water, it won't mold, that sort of thing. So I'm thinking maybe might go with that. It's a little less expensive too because we're not buying it from Sailrite, and we got it local, so we can just go, get what we need and pick it right up, no delivery charge, none of that. So I don't know. I'm thinking maybe measure out one of these cabinetries, maybe the aft cabin, measure out the section that we need back there, and go ahead and get enough for doing one section and just try it and see how it goes up. See if it's, if it's too hard to work with, it may not be worth doing. But I think we can try it and see how it works. Anyway, so that's where we're at. Let me show you what we're doing here with the floor. I'll show you how we're attaching the subfloor, and I also want to talk a little bit about the finished floor once we start going back with the finished floor. So let me do that real quick. I'll switch the camera around and I'll show you what we're doing. Okay, what you're looking at right now is the subfloor section on the port side of the main salon up against the bulkhead here for the head. What we've done is we've sectioned that piece off. You can see that little piece in the middle there. We've sectioned that piece off. We'll put a filler in there. So the reason that we did it that way was because we wanted to work with smaller sections. And the reason, partially the reason is because the sections stay more rigid when they're not as long, and when they span a distance. And since we had to cut away from furniture in some places, it just made it a lot easier to go back in with this subfloor in smaller sections. So as you can see here, we had to make allowances for the hatch that's going to go in there, and so we left a little bit of that 1x3 exposed on both sides. You can see that, and at the head there. And so what we're doing is we're screwing, you can see the screws there, we're screwing down. I've put more holes in this than I probably need. I don't need that many screws. I've noticed that when I get a few screws in there, it holds the board pretty good. It's not going anywhere. So I don't think I need near as many screws as I have holes. So I'm going to rethink that. And probably put fewer screws in there, maybe screw down the corners, and maybe one or two in the field. just save screws, and I don't put as many holes in the board that way. But the thing I really want to talk about is this is how we're putting this subfloor back in. And you can see there's Jean's rear end as she's working on the subfloor, marking the stringer locations in the galley so I can attach that subfloor in there. But I think the thing to point out is, and I don't know if I've talked about this before, but with this subfloor, what we're going to do is we're not going to lay planks down in here for the finished flooring. Teak or some other hardwood, alternating like a teak and holly, like a teak wood, and then a holly strip or anything like that. We're not going to do it that way. What we're doing is we're buying teak and holly veneered plywood. It's already veneered, and they're 4x8 sheets. And what we're going to do is we're going to buy those, and then we're just going to cut the floor to fit. And so our hope is to cut fairly long sections of the finished floor so that we don't have a lot of seams. The problem is that when we get around places like over there where there's angles, we want as straight a cut as we can get, so we'll probably take some angles off, and then I don't know, we'll figure out what we're going to do in the back behind it, but a narrower piece back there maybe. But I wanted to point out that it's a teak and holly veneered marine grade plywood. So what we have here is a 1/2 inch subfloor marine grade plywood, and then what we're going to be putting over this is a 1/2 inch marine grade teak and holly veneered plywood. So the screw locations are not as critical in the finished floor, because I'll have a 1/2 inch worth of subfloor to screw into, so I don't have to worry so much about the stringer locations, which gives me a lot more flexibility when it comes to fitting the hatches, because I don't have to be right up against the edge with the screws on the finished floor like I do with the subfloor. I thought about doing it, by laying a board, by doing it board style, but labor intensive, and I just don't want to do that. I think the teak and holly is a lot less, the veneered plywood is a lot less labor intensive. We just have to be really careful when we cut it to make sure that we have a really good measurement. What we were doing with the subfloor was using templates, but we've moved away from that idea with the finished floor, and what we're going to do is just take extremely accurate measurements, I think, because once we transfer the measurements to the board, I think it'll be a lot better than trying to template it. The templates curl, they roll up. Sometimes you can't get them cut just right or whatever. Anyway, we'll see how that goes with the very first piece that we put in. And then on this side over here, we already have a teak and holly veneered plywood in place that's original, and it's still in fairly good shape, so we decided not to take it up. What we're going to do here is we're going to sand it down, and then of course restain it. Of course, there's going to be a bit of a variation in color just because it's an older piece of wood, but I don't think it'll be too bad. The trick is going to be making sure that we can match up the teak and holly lines on this veneered piece, which may mean that we have to slide the piece one way or the other and have a narrower cut to get the lines to line up. So we may wind up with a seamed piece on this side. I'm not sure yet. It just depends on how it lines up. I might just have to sacrifice a portion of the teak and holly on one side, on one end, to get it to match these lines so that I can get a full piece across this section here. But we won't know that until we actually have the board in hand. But we didn't explain very well what we were doing with the finished floor, and I think that's because we didn't realize what we were doing with the finished floor until we got this subfloor underway. We realized, oh my goodness, templating this floor is a real pain. It's very difficult to template it like that, and so I think think this other method with the holly, Teak-N Holly, is going to be a little more productive for us. The advantage for us is that there's no Teak-N Holly in the main salon, except for that little small space up there, and then whatever's at the foot of the stairs here, the ladder, and what's there inside the nav station. But that won't matter because it won't be lined up with the finished floor anyway. It's above the finished floor, so I don't think it's going to be an issue. So anyway, but like I said before, we're not ready to start the finished floor yet, and we won't be for a little while. We're going to get these templates done and get them in, and then start moving on to other things that we can do, because we just don't want to put the finished floor in and then grind a bunch of dirt into it and drop tools on it, ding it, whatever we want. That to be the very last thing that we do. So I hope that answers questions about the flooring, about what we're doing here with the subfloor and the finished floor.
Let's get them.
So you can see where Jean has been drawing these lines for me. What she does is she basically marks where the stringer is, and she puts a line on both sides of the stringer so that I know where to put the screws.
Here. Got them all marked up.
Yep.
There's one here.
Probably put another screw in there, but I run out of screws. All out of screws. Yeah, so you
Can't
can
really
see
see
where
my
she's got
lines
the
too well.
lines on there. And then she writes, if it's a double stringer, she writes double stringer.
Yeah, but plenty of room. If it's,
Yeah. So anyway, that's a big help. So we can get them in the right place. Alright, so we've run out of screws. And okay, well, Quest for Thunder, we're going to call this a wrap. We basically ran out of screws. So I was able to pre-drill a bunch of the holes necessary for some of the other pieces of wood that need to be screwed down. Jean marked everything, as you saw in the video, with a pencil, so I know where, that very pencil. So I know where everything goes, all the screws go. And we need to build a couple of sawhorses. We're going to do that back in our workshop at home. And then we'll have we have a template out there for the back piece of flooring. We'll cut that there once we get the sawhorses made. And then we'll bring it back and fit it. And then we'll screw it down too. So anyway, thanks for tuning in. If you have any questions about what we're doing, if you have any comments about what we're doing, if you can think of a better way to do any of this, if you would like to share with us your thoughts, please feel free to do so. If you haven't already subscribed to our channel, we'd appreciate it if you would. We're small, but we certainly would like to grow. And when you subscribe, that helps. So share these videos with your friends and family, and come back and see us. So from the Crew of Thunder, fair winds and
following seas.
okay, bye.